welcome back to Oopsie Daisy. Thanks for joining me today. I have to pause for a second because I'm very distracted by my lips. I've been looking at some video recordings lately, and my new computer records me at a much higher resolution and definition, which is throwing me off a lot because now I can see me better than I had been able to before. And so when I do video podcasting and I watch the recording back, I've been noticing something that nobody's ever told me before, and that's that half my face is like very animated and my eyebrows are going up and down and I'm having all of these facial and lip expressions. But when I talk and I really focus, the right side of my mouth doesn't move as much as the left side. And you guys, it's ridiculous, but it looks like I have like Bell's palsy or like I'm having a stroke or something. And so I don't know, I've been in my head about it lately. So here's what I did. I'm like, okay, you know what? We're going to fix this situation. I'm just going to artistically balance my face out. You know, my daughter's an artist and she's like, symmetry and all this stuff. So I got me a little lip liner out of my 14-year-old's vanity. And I'm like, I'm just going to put a little lip liner on this other side where my lip looks thinner and doesn't move as much. And maybe that will give me the symmetrical facial movement that I'm looking for. So this is so ridiculous. I hit record and now all I can see is like this 1990s Gwen Stefani thin eyebrow, way dark lip liner situation. I gotta get it off. Hang on. Okay, that's better. At least, if you can't see me, I can see me. And at least only one of us is distracted at the moment. But let's dive in this week. I have a topic that is not necessarily fully baked yet. And I'll be honest, I was like a little bit nervous before because these blueberry muffins are probably a little runny in the middle still. The blueberry muffins of my mind. But I've been thinking about this idea for the last few weeks. And let me tell you how it came about. So I've been thinking about this idea lately of remembering and looking backward. And it all started a few weeks ago. I was on the worship team at church. And we were singing the song Great Is by Elevation Worship. It's a great song. It goes, when I think back over my life and I see how good you have been and my soul sings, great is your faithfulness. Can't believe I say with this microphone, man. I was like having a Celine Dion moment in my basement. And so our worship leader that week said, would you like to lead this song? And I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like, this is kind of my life story. I love this song. We start singing and I get through maybe an eighth of the way through the first verse. And I stop singing. I'm so overcome by emotion and just the reality of when I do look back over my life and I see the handprints of God and I see the moves that he has made and the things he's protected me from and the things he's healed me from and set free from and fixed and the hopes and the dreams that he's given me. There's just this intense emotion that waves up through me. And it happened to be while I was on stage with the worship team. And so I point to our piano player who's leading that week. And I'm like, girl, you gotta take this. I can't do this. And so I'm kind of step back from the microphone and I start crying. And then I hit my knees and my whole body was shaking. And I just put my arms up and I praised. That hit me and I could see sort of the movie of my life march through my mind's eye. And I just stared at everything that was behind me and everything that he has walked me through and how far I've come. And I was done. I was undone. I was torn apart in the best way possible. And so ever since that day, I've been thinking about this idea of looking backward and how as a society and as humans, we are encouraged actively to not look back. have you ever heard that saying, don't look back, you're not going that way? There's only 2 days that you can affect in your life, and that's today and tomorrow. Yesterday has already come and gone. But what if we're missing it? What if God wants us to look back? What if there is a purpose and a power to spinning 180 and checking out where we've been instead of always staring ahead to where we're going? So we're not talking today about wallowing in the past. We're talking about marking moments with a purpose because God does something with this. So here's the issue. We as a culture do not do this, especially now. I feel like this whole mindfulness movement and like this whole living on vibes has us stuck in this mantra. And we're either trying to practice living in the moment and being present, don't let anything affect just this moment right here, right now. That's all that matters. That's all you have. Or we're so busy looking ahead, what's to come, to hustle for what's ahead, to build for your future, to boss it up and chase your dreams, your goals, to build your enterprise, your empire, your legacy, all of these things. So we live in a very now and next culture. It's actually frowned upon to kind of look into the past. But remembrance is not passive. It serves a purpose. It's commanded. It's a spiritual discipline that can shift your perspective. It can build trust. It can fuel praise. Like looking back isn't just this sentimental thing. We make fun of my mom. My mom is notorious for this, but I'm beginning to see the reason why. She'll say to us on any given day, 5 years ago today, we were leaving for North Carolina. Or she did it this morning. We met my sister-in-law for donuts for her birthday at the bakery. And my mom said, a week ago today, we were pulling into the Dells. And so my mom is constantly like marking time and looking back and saying, hey, this is where we were 10 years ago. This is where we were 2 weeks ago. And we kind of tease her about it. Like, okay, mom, like, come on. 36 minutes ago right now, I was in the bathroom putting on my lopsided lip liner. Like, it's kind of ridiculous to us. And I think culture thinks that way too. Like, why would you waste your time looking backwards when you can't change it? A lot of people are trying to heal from it. A lot of people have trauma in their past. But this isn't about looking back and remembering the awful parts. It's not looking back in a sentimental way. This is looking back in order to build our faith. And let me tell you, in the lives that we lead, in the times that we live, in the struggles that we walk through, this is necessary. So I started kind of perusing the scripture. Did you know, here's your fun fact of the day. Did you know that the word remember is used in the Bible, depending on the translation, anywhere from 200 to over 500 times? It is used everywhere. In fact, Deuteronomy is often referred to as the book of remembrance for how many times it talks about what the Lord has walked the Israelites through and their wilderness experience and what he has done for them. And it's a reminder about the covenant and the promises that he made to them. It's listed over and over again. And even as I was reading Deuteronomy, I was like, bro, we get it. Like, we get that you made this promise. We get that you split the Red Sea. We get that you drowned the Egyptians to let the Israelites go. But it says it over and over and over. That's not accidental. It's very, very purposeful. So let's look at where we first start to see it. This happens in Genesis. So the story of Abraham, if you don't know, Abraham used to be Abram. And in his old age, the Lord basically said to him, I have a land for you. I have a promised land for you, and your descendants are going to be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the beach. I mean, that's a paraphrase, but you can find it in the Bible. And so Abraham packs up his peeps and they start traveling to this land. They have no idea where they're going, but he heads out across the desert and essentially is just waiting for God to say this is the land of milk and honey that I've promised you. This is the land for your people. This is the land that your generations of offspring will raise and rise and live and thrive. And so all throughout Genesis, as he's traveling to this unknown place, whenever the Lord moves or rescues or saves or says something big to him or makes a promise to him, Abraham stops and builds an altar. It's not just like a random, hey, we got to take a bathroom break by this tree. He is choosing to recognize God has moved here. God has said something to me here. God has made a promise that he will not break, and it happened here. And I'm going to mark it so that I remember what happened, and that the generations that come after me and the people that come after me come through and they see this altar and they say, God did something here. It starts in Genesis 12. Let me find it here. So this is when the Lord calls Abraham. And he says, leave your native country, your relative, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. So basically, Abraham leaves as the Lord instructed, and he travels as far as the land of Shechem, and he sets up a camp, it says, beside the oak of Morah. At that time, the area was inhabited by the Canaanites. The Lord appears to Abram here and says, I will give this land to your descendants. And Abram built an altar there and dedicated it to the Lord who had appeared to him. Abraham realizes the scope of this blessing, about what's about to happen, what the Lord is promising him. And he says, you know what? This moment deserves to be remembered. The Lord deserves to be praised here in a way that's going to last for generations, so that I don't forget what happened here, so that I don't skip over the significance of this moment with the Lord. It says in the very next verse, Abram traveled south, set up camp in the hill country with Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. There he built another altar, dedicated it to the Lord, and he worshiped the Lord. So he's going through and he's building these altars as he travels. But Abraham wasn't the only one doing this. God actually commanded remembrance. If we go to Joshua 4, there's like a mini Red Sea moment where they're crossing the Jordan River, and God stops the river so that the people can get across and the Ark of the Covenant can get across. And it says in Joshua 4, when all the people had crossed the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, take 12 stones from the very place where the priests are standing in the middle of the Jordan. Carry them out and pile them up at the place where you will camp tonight. So Joshua tells his people, we will use these stones to build a memorial. In the future, your children will ask you, what do these stones mean? Then you can tell them, they remind us that the Jordan River stopped flowing when the Ark of the Lord's covenant went across. These stones will stand as a memorial among the people of Israel forever. And kind of sprinkled through the Old Testament is this idea of God commanding these people to build altars, to build small little monuments like this for the sake of remembering. We see it too. Moses is taking the Israelite people right to the edge of the promised land, and God has told him, hey, you're not going in because of the things that you have done and how you did not obey me. You ain't getting in. So Moses knows he's going to die, and he's going to send this whole group of people into a brand new place, into this promised land that they've been searching for decades. And he doesn't give them this rah-rah speech about here's what's ahead and here's how you defeat the Canaanites. Good luck, you guys. I believe in you. You got this. I can't wait to see what the future holds for you. No. He takes them through this big, long speech where he essentially details everything God has done for them. Every blessing, every provision, every time he stepped in to save them, how he guided them, what he promised them. There are chapters at the beginning of Deuteronomy where Moses simply runs people through the history of how good God has been to them. And that's the last thing he says to them before he dies. Now, I don't know about you, but like deathbed confessions and the last things that I want to say to the people that I love before I leave this earth, that's pretty important. If you look into the New Testament, Jesus, the night before he died at the Last Supper, this is when he's teaching the disciples communion. And he tells them, do this and remember me. So again, we have, this is my last thing that I need to tell you before I go. remember me, remember the blood, remember the body. So why do we care? Why is this important? In our hustle, bustle, future forward culture, looking back has a place and it has a purpose. And the first one is gratitude. It is so easy to get wrapped up in our daily routine, in our daily struggle, and to start taking for granted that many of us are living in right now the things that we used to pray for. And our brains tend to complain and our hearts tend to grumble and we tend to start being disgusted and bored by the daily grind. But this deliberate choice of remembering shifts the perspective of our heart. Okay, so let me give you a personal example that I've actually lived through the last couple weeks. With the kids home for the summer and just everybody busy with activities, there's just a lot of hustle and bustle happening, which comes with mess. At least in my house, it comes with mess. And so there's like bread on the counter and there's underpants hanging on the railing and every light in the house is on from rooms that I don't know if anybody's really been in, but for sure somebody forgot to turn the lights off. And I found myself being super annoyed. Oh my gosh, why can't these kids remember to shut these dang lights off? I'm always telling them and they always forget. And then I started remembering. Back when I was divorced, I didn't have my kids a lot because of my own choices. And I was high all the time and I was with somebody that was really toxic. I just did not have the kids over at my house a lot. And let me tell you what, all the lights were off. I never had to remind anybody to pick up their dirty clothes off my bathroom floor after they took a shower. I didn't have to ask anybody where my eyelash curler is. I wasn't rummaging through my closet looking for a shirt that somebody borrowed and being frustrated that it wasn't where I left it because my kids weren't there. My family was broken. I had a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old that I had walked out on, and I wasn't there for me to tuck them in at night. They weren't there asking for another drink of water. They weren't there for me to be like, oh, why don't you ever sleep? And that's when my heart started filling with gratitude. I was so thankful to have to shut lights off. I became so thankful that God healed my family and brought us back together so that somebody could go in my drawer and steal my favorite socks. Remembering shifts your heart away from the daily annoyances and the little struggles and just like the irksome things that get stuck in your head and your heart. When we remember what God has done for us in the past, we can worship Him right now, even in the waiting, even when you're annoyed, even when you're exhausted, even when daily life isn't sexy and glamorous and fun and it's hard, but we realize where we've come from and what He's given us. The second reason why remembrance matters is because it builds perseverance in us. I know that you have walked through or are currently walking through incredible challenges in your life. And it's really easy to take a look around at what's happening to you right now and settle into this lie that the way things are right now, the way that it feels right now is the way that it's going to be forever. And you feel exhausted. You feel beat up. It feels dark and it feels hard and it feels like it's never going to end. But when you start looking back, you will, guaranteed, see seasons of your life that you didn't think you would live through, that you didn't know how at the time you were going to get through it, past it, move forward from it, and you'll go, whoa, I've come a long way. It makes me think of my own marriage, the first year when Chris and I were getting back together after our divorce, and it was so awful. Like I had moved back in, we weren't remarried yet, we were still trying to figure each other out, we still did not like each other at all, but we knew that God had called us to be back together. And during that time, I was nursing, and I don't even know if I've ever told Chris this, but I was nursing the biggest heartache of my life. I had lived with a man when Chris and I were divorced, and I literally put all my eggs in that basket, and I thought that I was going to be with this guy forever. Granted, I ignored every red flag in the book, and looking back, it was highly toxic and very obviously not what God had for me. But deep down in my own bent and demented way, I loved this guy, and we had a very, very deep relationship. And so when he and I broke up and I felt the Lord call me to come back home and fix my family, I was still grieving the loss of this previous relationship. And it devastated me. It was terrible. I had this amazing man, the father of my children, who was like ready and waiting to love me and to put my marriage back together. And all I was doing was hurting. I couldn't figure out how to let this other person go in my heart, in my head. I couldn't figure out what my place was in this family anymore. And I hurt. And I felt dead inside. And I didn't want to be doing anything I was doing. It was stack upon stack of hard conversation and awkward moments and fights and just general suck that we were going through. And all I did was hang on to God every single day because I knew that he had called me to it. And I knew that he promised to walk me through it. And eventually that season of my life ended. I stopped feeling that way. My heart healed. My mental health healed. God slowly knit my marriage back together and knit us back together as people, as friends, as romantic partners in a way that I never could have foreseen. And I look back at it now and I see how that hard thing had a beginning and it had an end. And watching how God walked me through that gives me perseverance. It gives me endurance. It gives me a drive now to get through hard things because I know, number one, he's right there in it. And number two, it has a timeline. It will end. The current thing you're going through isn't something you're going to go through forever. And so if you can see that there is 100%, without a doubt, a light at the end of that tunnel, you know that you can make it through whatever you're going through. I used to do that. I was running last summer. I don't know why. That was really stupid. My body didn't like it, but I was going to go for it anyway. But I remember on my longer runs when I was training, and I would look at my watch and I would say, okay, only 15 minutes left. My legs are dying and my chest is on fire and I don't like the uncomfortable amount of sweat that's happening in my sports bra right now, but I only have 5 minutes left and I can bear anything for 5 more minutes. So when you look back at your hard seasons and see that there is a definite start and finish to them, then it's not so hard to keep going, to keep putting one foot in front of the other because you know every step forward that you take is getting you towards the finish line. The Bible even says it. You can hang on to it as a promise. It says, weeping may last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. The night is a specific set of hours. That's it. And there is a dawn every single day. The sun comes up. And there is a sun coming up on your season, on your struggle. It won't last forever. But we don't recognize that when we're stuck in the middle of it. It requires us to look back and see the seasonality of our life and look at how many hard things we've already walked through to give us the drive to get through this one. And with that gratitude, with that perseverance comes a hope. And that's the third thing that remembering does for us, is it gives us hope. I look back over all the situations of my life, even before I followed the Lord. He knew I was going to be his someday. And he did a lot for me before I knew that it was him that was doing the doing. I think about all the stupid decisions I made. I think all the dangerous situations I put myself in college, walking home alone from the bar in 40 below weather and buying weed in an alley in Minneapolis, just jumping willy-nilly from job to job. Like, all of these things could have ended terribly for me. And you know what he did? He landed me on my feet every single time. And so now when I get into kind of a hairy situation and I'm not sure how things are going to turn out and I'm not sure if it's going to work out, I can look back and say, man, if he did all of this for me before I even followed him, how much more is he going to take care of me now that I'm walking with him? Now that I'm on the road with him, I'm living in his back pocket and in his ear bugging him all day. How much more will he do for me now? And that gives me hope. It gives me hope that he's calling me forward into better, into safer, into more joyful, more adventurous, more blessing, more abundance. He has brought me up through the garbage and into beautiful things. So I know that if things look dark around me now, all I have to do is wait. I have to wait and I have to listen to him and obey him and follow him, and he's going to lead me out of the darkness. Sometimes the only way to recognize God's fingerprints on your life is to look backwards, because it's so subtle sometimes while it's happening. You can't see right now how God is going to work out these situations that you find yourself in. But when you look back, you can see his handiwork. You can see evidence of a God who was good to you, who was faithful to you, who came through every time with blessing, with abundance, with finances, with food, with joy, with solutions, with new perspectives, with changed hearts, with answered prayers. You can see and recognize his commitment to you when you look backwards. So I've been thinking about these altars lately that Abraham built and how people that came along behind him were like, ooh, something big happened here. And I started to think, we don't build altars anymore. We don't pile up stones anymore and rename locations based on what God has done there. But there are things you can do. There's things that I do in my life that I recognize now as altars that I'm building. I'm sitting here looking at my bookshelf right now, and I have 20 plus journals from 2018 on. When I gave my life to the Lord in 2018 is when I started journaling. And it's so many just conversations and crying out to God and deep prayers and venting and just telling him what's going on. And it's his answers to me. And I've been writing about the things that have been happening and prayers that have been answered. And I realize that those are the altars that I've been building. I can go back to those. I love to read my old journals because it reminds me of all the stuff that I've been through, things that I have forgotten about. Going back through those pages just reminds me of how good God has been to me. And maybe your altars don't look like journals. One of the easiest ways to build an altar, you guys, is to talk about what God has done. And I'm not talking about into a microphone. If you want to, that's great. You call me. You come on this podcast and tell me what God has done in your life. But I'm just talking about around your house, to your kids, where you just say, gosh, remember when God gave me that job after I got fired? Can you believe that we needed a car and God gave us one for super cheap from a place we never expected? Remember when I needed a bra and my sister showed up with ones that were way too big for her and just happened to fit me? I mean, things like that make us laugh. But just talking about what's happened in your life to your friends, to your relatives, around your house, to your kids, it brings it back up in your mind. You guys, remembrance is an active thing. It's not something that just sort of pops in your head. We're a very, very forgetful people. It's scientific. Our brains carve out memories and they shut down neural pathways that we don't need anymore because we can't hold all the information that is required to function every day to move forward. It's got to make space for new knowledge and new skills and things like that. So our brains are actively shutting down pieces of our memory that we don't need anymore. So the act of remembering is almost a rebellion against what our bodies are trying to do. You get to choose what you hang on to. So I'm going to challenge you this week. Look back on purpose. Stop stressing about what's ahead. Stop trying to control what's 2 weeks in the future. Stop trying to figure out how this situation is going to pan out for you and start looking backwards, because that's where breakthrough lives. That's where gratitude lives. That's where determination is. And that's where hope is found. All right, guys, thanks for hanging with me this week. I love you. We will talk soon.